a concern, I think that's reasonable to ask us to have a special meeting.
Okay, as soon as we get bids, I'll send in a report to Sarah, who can get in contact with you guys, and we can figure that out. Yeah, no problem.
Does anybody have any questions before?
No, I'm gonna make a comment though, I like the changes that you made, and I think it was very wise and thoughtful changes to the library system, the libraries that it's gonna serve, which is the South Region. So, thank you.
I did have one question, and this may be a question for the sellers group. The connecting the lighting, it looks like it's line item 26, so that was just a $15,000 line item addition
On the,
connecting interior lighting, 16 lighting circuits to emergency power. Was that the addition that you were referring to?
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
We had anticipated adding a few things, because they had previously asked to add some of the computers and all. We had listed that as an optional item,
Yeah.
because it wasn't directly necessary. We needed to check the capacity of the generator, but with changing to LED lighting, and we're changing which.
Oh, Mr. Judge.
I apologize for my tardy.
Ms. Armbruster, I'd just like to add, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
The process will take long. It has to go through the Public Works Department, then the Purchasing Department, and then it has to be publicly advertised for 30 days, at least.
25 is the minimum by
minimum.
law. So normally
so-
it's around 28 days they normally advertise.
Yeah, it'll be a couple of months before we see any bid results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that just an FYI?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just the normal process.
Okay, thank you.
But you still need to take action to authorize
Sure.
advertisement for bids.
Yes.
Sure. Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion, and help me if I am saying this wrong, Ms. Page, to authorize that, Mr. Angel consider all three alternatives. Look for bids for all three alternatives. Is that what you need, Mr. Angel?
No. We need to be, the board needs to authorize,
Why don't you read A,
Yeah.
look under, A and the verbiage on the
Okay.
agenda.
I authorize the South Regional Library renovation project, be approved, to approve the construction document phase and pricing estimate, and authorize building out the project.
Second.
Bidding out, sorry.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Ms. Arsma, made a motion. Mr. Thomas seconded that motion. Do we have any comments? Ms. Zader?
No, we do not.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next agenda item is our library book discards for November through December 2023.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the discord of the, November to December 2023 books.
I'll second that.
Okay, there, Ms. Arsma made a motion, Mr. Jones seconded for the library discards. There's a motion on the table. Any, comments? Is they there? Anyone signed up for comment? No. Thank you. Okay, we'll vote. All in favor?
Point of order, do we have any comments from the board members?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question for Ms. Sarah. I appreciate your email where you kind of went through talking about how a certain percentage, very low of the newer books were damaged, and kind of some of the utilizations. Can you give me an idea of what the typical utilization would be? I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it is about $15,000 to $20,000 worth of books. Just trying to get a better feeling and understanding for why some of those are being taken out. The utilization showed everything from 0 upwards of 100 plus. So what would be a typical utilization that would be something that we would say, hey, is a good mover, and keep that on the shelves?
Are you referring to circulation stats on why we would want to repurchase something if it was being discarded?
Really, why we would wanna pull it from the
Pull it.
shelves? I understand damage.
So, if we're pulling something for low usage, usually we're looking at less than 5 circulations in the past 3 to 5 years. And sometimes we actually set the standards to say 0 circs in the past 3 or 4 or 5 years. Very rarely will we pull anything else. Other things might, if it's more than 0 circs, it's just kind of case by case. When was the last circulation? Was it right after the cutoff of 3 years? Then we might pull it. But we usually pull 0 circulations in the past 3 to 5 calendar years. And all of the stats you're seeing of how much it was checked out was done before that time frame. So if the book hasn't moved in 3 years, it's taking up valuable shelf space. That's usually when we start to pull things. Anything under the 3 years is usually because of damage.
So just make sure I understand, because these books go from 3 months old back to 2015 from what I saw.
Everything is going to have a cutoff mark of November 2nd, 2015, because that's when we introduced our new ILS software. So nothing will show older than November 2015, but in fact, many items are older than that because it was just integrated into the new system.
Okay, so many of these have 60, 70, 80, 100 plus checkouts. Why are they being pulled? Are all of these damaged?
Those, I would have to look at it, but those would probably be circulations before the, like the 3 years. Like we pull a report that says what hasn't checked out in the past 3 years. It may have circulations before that.
Okay.
Let me pull up the report. Yeah.
That's I hadn't understood that before, Ms. Monroe, so that's good to know. To Mr. Moore's point, I think that looking at the numbers, it appears as if those are like recent checkouts, maybe even of this year, so I questioned that before this happened. I think all new members, Mr. Moore, have asked for clarification and understanding of this, but what I understood Ms. Monroe to explain is that even though there's a lot of there's circulation searches, what you call them, that y'all did a search for 3 years, and so that would be, there was nothing in the past, the most recent 3 years.
Yes, so that last column, the total checkouts, that is the total checkouts over the lifetime of that item in our library. So when we set the parameters for our search, we say, like, if we're pulling it today on January 9th, we're not looking at anything that is checked out since January 8th of 2021. So even though something may have checked out 20 times, 50 times, it checked out all of those before 3 years ago. So in the past 3 years, it's just been sitting on the shelf collecting dust.
Okay, so I'm looking in the list and there's 20 or so that are from 2022. And again, varying from 6 to 27, 26, 21, 32. Can I assume all those are damaged?
Yes, we do not discard anything for low use that's under 3 years. If we do, it is for it's a very unique or special reason, but we almost always set 3 years as like the number. We don't want to pull anything because it could still have a chance to circulate. Under 3 years, so anything you're looking at 2021, 2022 are most likely damaged. Some of the bindings on these books aren't the greatest. Children are particularly rough on books. Some of them just don't have a great shelf life. They get lost, they get chewed by dogs, they get water damage, there's a lot of reasons we would pull something early, and it's always like because it's damaged in some way.
Gotcha. And is that something that we track while we're pulling it? Or?
We do not track that. It's checked out to discard, and it's after y'all approve them, it's, put out in the second chance giveaway. If it's really gross, we throw it away.
Thank you.
If I may add, and Ms. Monroe, correct me if I'm wrong, but for your benefit, Mr. Moore, what I've understood in the past is that we may have the same book, numerous copies of the same book, but if there's low usage, maybe circulation or whatever, and if there's damage of a book, the library may be choosing to get rid of that book and just not replace it because we still have other numbers. Is that correct?
Yes, we look at a lot of factors when a book is removed from the collection on whether we're going to replace it. And that it's determined by how popular is it on the shelf at a different location, is it part of the series and that series in general is still popular, or is it the first book in a series? We always wanna make sure we have copies of the first book in the series. So we look at a lot of different factors to determine if it should be reordered. We move books between branches, so if one branch ended up with 2 copies, we may move those around, because we like to dedicate the majority of the funds to buying new items or replacing like super popular tried and true books throughout the years that people are always going to ask for.
Gotcha. And then I looked through the budget and I couldn't really ascertain, and I apologize if I missed it, but this $15,000 or $16,000, what does that represent of the yearly budget for our book purchases that we do to bring in new books?
I think we did the math last year, kind of looked at it, and it's, for the most part, we're discarding, I think, as much as we're buying each year, right? No?
No, that was a proposal.
That was a proposal.
That's what I suggested, but, as a part of a blanket purchase, a blanket discard policy saying the library staff couldn't discard more than they buy in 1 year, but that didn't go anywhere. That's something different.
This one was what, 15,000?
So let's do that per,
What's the budget? So I think it's 300-ish thousand, for books.
5%.
Yeah, and it varies. We bring this report to the board every 2, maybe 3 months, depending. And the numbers change. Like last time, it was a lot more when I brought the August, the September, October ones. But the branch managers, like they kind of have schedules and routines, and there's certain times of year that some people focus on more weeding. So, and then we're always a little slower in August. So we tend to do major maintenance on the collection during that month. So the number is not going to be consistent every report. It's going to vary.
And my last question, sorry. Within some of the utilization where there are higher numbers, 80, 90, 100 plus, is there a policy we have in place where that's just reordered, or is it replaced, or, you know, how is that on the back end?
Like I mentioned previously, just because it was popular 3 or 5 years ago doesn't mean it's popular now. So if it had 89 checkouts over the life of the course of it being in our collection, that could have been 10 years, who knows? It really just depends. If it hasn't checked out in 3 years and there's other books of copies of that book in the library and they're not circulating well, we're not going to replace it. It had its heyday. It checked out 89 times previously, but clearly something has changed where it's not checking out now.
And does our system track that to where in our report we can see, like, in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, where we could have a better feel for that?
It's in the information's in our software. I'm not sure if it's on the report. I would have to ask Peter if he could add that, like the last circulation date. Because it's in there, that's how we pull all of our reports of when the last circulation date was.
I think it's valuable information, because I think this speaks to what our community is checking out and what they would like to see, and so, you know, just as the board, I would kind of like to see what's going in, what's coming out, and just have a little bit better program from that. So that's something we can look at. I would definitely like to see that data if possible.
I can see if it's, that's part of what Peter pulls, then we can add it. But for the most part, I'm confident in saying most of those dates, the last checkout date is going to be 3 to 5 years ago. Anything less, I mean, the checkout date could have been in December, but that was whenever it was returned and we realized this has water damage, so we're gonna discard it. Usually those, we look into reordering.
Gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, we have a motion on the table. So all in favor of, the library discard motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so announcements. Reminder, the next library board meeting will be February 19th. And to the board, your yearly ethics training and preventing sexual harassment training must be completed before year end. And now we go to public comments on any library business which is not on the agenda. Okay, Kenneth Broussard.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. Sisters and brothers, I stand before you as a proud citizen of this country who for the last 76 years has lived in freedom and the ability to seek life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as promised by the Declaration of Independence and guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. And I would ask the courtesy of being listened to. Though I don't speak out often, I'm very grateful for the First Amendment of the Constitution that allows me the freedom to exercise my opinion, including the right to criticize the government and by extension this board. I rise to speak tonight out of a shared fear. One, I think, there's fear on this side and there's fear on that side of the table. And I think that fear has dominated the opinions, the tactics, and the topics of what this board has dealt with, especially in cultural issues. So I see it as a creeping scourge. And unless we acknowledge that we often operate out of fear rather than the love to which we are called for each other, the respect for differences to which we are called in that love for each other, then actions that are taken and policies that are established will divide rather than unite. And I have seen in your attempts to control this parish board, library board, you have seemed to have resorted to fear-mongering and fear tactics. Demonizing drag queens, labeling informational diagrams of genitalia as obscene and pornographic. When pornography does not fit that definition if it's just for information. And if you're being titillated by seeing illustrations of genitalia and human anatomy, then that's in you. That's not in the writer, that's not in the author. So, and then you base your last decisions on hyped up conspiracy theory of cultural Marxism. That's an old theory. It's an old conspiracy theory that's being reworked. And you allowed one or two members of this board to convince you that the ALA was a vicious organization by cherry picking. May I just finish this phrase?
3 minutes or
I know. May I just finish this phrase? Organization by cherry picking topics
Mr.
that
Broussard.
you knew
Mr. Broussard, we're
would
gonna ask
be-
you to follow our procedures and that
Okay.
you agree to.
that you know
Mr. Broussard.
that you knew would wish to see about this.
Thank you,
You
Mr.
were
Broussard.
supporting
Thank you,
white
Mr. Broussard.
Christian
Thank you, Ms. Broussard.
Go Ken, go Ken, go Ken.
I left my house today, my second grader. Could have spent the night with him, but I'm here. I'm here because of the misconduct that continues every month. I love that I have all your attention. This is really nice to see your eyeballs paying attention to the speakers. The reason that we keep showing up is because what you're doing is gross. It is, I would say, comical if it wasn't so devastating. Certainly embarrassing. And last meeting was quite different from tonight. Tonight's meeting is excitingly boring, as they should be. I had a conversation a few nights ago with a former board member from past years who informed me that when this person was on the board, that this room was empty. There was hardly anyone here. And I think that speaks volumes to the toxic behavior that you guys continue to do, including the most ridiculous thing by disassociating with the ALA. A bunch of people behind this table that have no background in literacy. Sitting there thinking that whatever the discussion was with Marxism had some type of relevance to this library is ridiculous. And I hope that we make you miserable every time that we come here and continue to tell you how ridiculous that decision was, because I take joy in it. I take immense joy in it, because several of you are absolutely rude and you deserve the negative attention because you continue to do negative things. I know that you disagree with the lifestyles of some of the characters that are on the shelves of these libraries. But tough, because the library doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to any of you, it belongs to us.
Yeah, girl.
It belongs not to you. No matter what you feel about these books or the ALA, you are unqualified for what you did last time.
Yep.
And I just feel like I'm going to continue to remind you every month.
Cindy Fox.
I also want, my name is Cindy Fox, I'm a resident of Lafayette Parish. I also want to address what took place at last month's meeting. This room was packed with members of Lafayette's diverse community. They made their voices heard, but you chose not to listen. You can no longer claim that you stand for community standards. You do not.
Amen.
The community told you what they wanted, and you said no. Some members of the board talk about democracy in action, but you have failed in your job. 2 of you walked out before the meeting was over, showing your complete disrespect for the public you claim to represent. But rest assured, as the public, we will continue to show up here to speak truth to power as long as it takes. Thank you.
Mary Liz Garcia.
Mary Liv Garcia, Lafayette Parish. I want to speak to 2 points, actually. One relates to the Northeast Library. And my concern there is that, you know, it's going through the normal process with the planning and zoning, et cetera, and getting all those permits lined up. But we have been promised that there would be a citizens advisory group that would have an opportunity to participate in the design concept of the library, what it would look like, what its function was. And I want to remind the board, because many of you are new, I think that's a critical part of planning. I don't see, frankly, any reason why that committee could not be established now instead of waiting, because then that will help us expedite things. As I told you years ago now, because this has been dragging on for so long, build the library that you can afford, but more importantly, build a library that meets the needs of the area it serves. So not all libraries need to have 33,000 square feet, but it might really need a high area of technology services. So whatever the needs of that community are, they need to be assessed, and the best people to give you that information are the people who live in the area that will be served. So that's the first thing. And then the second comment that I want to make relates to the decision that you did make at the last meeting to disassociate with the American Library Association. That was a very poor decision. I think that it's going to, it's probably the worst decision that I've seen this board make in terms of the impact on the staffing and on the programming and on the future of direction of the library. I would like to suggest to this board that there be some way to monitor the fallout from that decision. You know, how it impacts staffing, how it impacts the quality of the programs. So if you make a bad decision, which we have all made, and I've served in office, and so I've made bad decisions, you monitor the consequences of that. And then if you see that you've lost more than you've gained, then you make some adjustments. So I'm asking you to not close the door on that decision. Please monitor it, because it's not Marxist. It's a professional organization, and we need it. Thank you.
Dixie Maddox.
Hello, Nancy Maddox, resident of Lafayette Parish. I didn't prepare anything today, but I first want to say that I found it very heartening to see, you know, community giants like Barry Onsley and Charles Bustani come out and, you know, make excellent points. It was great to just see, you know, the diversity of all the people who came together to let you folks know that you're making a terrible decision. It was certainly disheartening to see you just say, we didn't care, we're just gonna do this anyway because we want to. Because some gentleman said that this was Marxist or whatever. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. But anyway, I do want to talk about redemption. I do believe in that. I believe that, you know, we all get a second chance, thankfully. I think that, you know, with Ms. Armbruster and Mr. Judge, they've made it very clear what their path is. For the rest of you, I would just like to encourage you to not go down that path with them, to think about what you want to do. I think that it's very telling that those two walked out before public comment and left the rest of you here to deal with the fallout of their thing that they came up with. So I think that it's very possible that you guys can have some redemption in your bad choices. You know, like was said earlier, we all make bad choices, myself included, and you know, you can redeem yourself, you can do better. And I hope that you do. I hope that when you went home last month, you thought about all of the amazing people who took time out of their day to come here and make great points, and that maybe you had made the wrong choice, because you did. To hear that there are 12 staffing vacancies is disheartening. I know that that is the goal for some of you, but I do ask that for the rest of you, you not make that goal. Don't go down that path. Make a turn. Do something good and right for this library. Thank you.
Eureka Ross.
So my kiddos, Happy New Year's. I wanna, if it's not apparent, I'm one of 3 African Americans present today, and I think it's very important that I merely state that African Americans like myself that live in our community would love to have Black History Month back. So just in case you all have forgotten, it's currently May. So shame on all of you. So you guys have an opportunity to make it right. I believe Black History Month displays should not be banned. Oh yeah, Black History Month displays, Women History Month displays, I'm literally all of that. So that's all. I want to keep it short and sweet only because my kids are present. But if they were not present, it would have been a completely different speech. So have a blessed day. And by the way, I think you guys should have like a training meeting or something for new board members, since you all have a high turnover rate. So we're not spending 30 minutes of the meeting explaining basic things. No, I'm being honest. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm serious, because you stated you had to explain the same thing to that board member. So I think you guys should like have a study guide. I'm being very serious. Have a study guide for new board members so they can understand the basic procedures and the functions, how the meetings are ran, and how to discard books and such. So have a blessed day, guys. Take care.
Go, Marika.
Okay. So before we close, I have a few comments to make, but if any other board members have any comments?
I do have a comment. I wanted to show something to the audience, but because there are children in the room, I don't think I'll be able to show it. They'll keep accusing us of not caring and doing things because we don't like certain people in the community, and that is not true. The ALA, one of the things when you pull up their website, talks about the books that are banned or censored in libraries across the nation. Well, one of the books is Lawn Boy, Gender Queer, The V Word, Flamer, Fun Home, and there's a slew of other books. These books are not banned because of the word gay or talking about gay people. These books contain sexually explicit images, wording in these books that people are challenging. Our library system has moved these to the adult section. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Putting a book that is age appropriate in the right place in a library. I want to encourage all people in the community on all sides to go to booklooks.org. They do reports on books. And they even show some images that are in these books that some consider inappropriate for children. When it comes to sexually explicit material, I will not apologize for saying that that is inappropriate for children, okay? I will not apologize for that. So I'm asking the people in the community, please go to booklooks.org and see what they say about it. They have a few quotes from the books, and they have images that are in these books. And if this whole community thinks that this is okay, okay, well, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arsamal. Does any other board member have any comments? Okay, so I have a couple. I'll read what I wrote. I wasn't able to stay for public comments at the last meeting, which some of you know. So I listened to them through the online audio link, and there are a few comments I want to address. Number one is pointed out by Mr. Kelly at that meeting, and Ms. Monroe. Our meetings are being aired in real time on AOC, and a link to AOC and the audio links of our meetings can be found on the library website. Secondly, an accusation was made claiming that at the November meeting, I had an, quote, extended discussion on how to prevent the recording of the meetings except for people with disabilities, close quote. This is categorically false. The speaker acknowledged that the look on some of the board members' faces following her comments indicated that they didn't know what she was talking about. She was correct. How could they, since her characterization of the discussion was absolutely wrong. First, I was only involved minimally in the discussion of that agenda item, so there was no extended discussion by me per the claim. Secondly, there was absolutely no discussion of preventing the recording of meetings by anyone. I find it quite impossible for anyone to come to such a conclusion after listening to the audio, and I question the intention of the accuser. I encourage all who are interested in the board's discussion to listen to the audio of the meeting, which again can be found on the library's website. Lastly, another patron was concerned with the qualifications of our board members. First, the fact that we are seated here at this table indicates we are qualified to serve on this board. Otherwise, we would not have been appointed. Secondly, the patron was very concerned with the degrees, or what she suspected as lack of degrees, that the board members possess. At a meeting last year, the board's bios were actually read aloud and have been posted on the library site since that time. I encourage all who are interested in those bios to check out our website. That's all my discussions, or comments rather. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, we'll have our closing prayer before we adjourn. Please stand. Mr. Judge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you as always for all your many blessings. We understand that your will be done, whether we cooperate or not. But we ask that we have the heart and the mind to always cooperate with your will, so that we can bring about what it is that you desire most, and that is the salvation of all souls. We thank you again for allowing us to be here tonight to do your will. We ask that you provide safety for everyone to travel home, and that they have a blessed day today and tomorrow and for the rest of the week. We ask this in your most precious name, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Amen. And the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Meeting is adjourned.
Good night, thank you for coming. Yes.